There's literally nothing else to do now besides vote. Turn off the news, turn off the polls, and get to your polling place. Dyze in your house. Exclusively on East Coast Radio.
If you don't know what Staten Island is, it's like New York's abortion that lived.
Representing Staten Island.
These Staten Island boys are no joke. Nobody likes me. Nobody likes me. But that's okay, cause I don't like y'all anyway. And I don't like y'all anyway.
We got one goal for the next 2 months. One goal for 2018. And that's to take back the House. And we're only going to do that by going out and voting.
Representing Staten Island.
I mean, I know the civil rights movement didn't exactly end racism, but I thought we were further along with this.
Representing Staten Island.
It's a known fact that the reason I don't have any friends is solely because I'm a liberal who cares about other people and doesn't want to see brown people and women suffer at the hands of old, rich, white men who have been in power for way too long.
Representing Staten Island.
Nazis? Bad. Free press? Good. The most dangerous thing you can do is sit back and think that America has no chance of ever turning into an autocracy or some sort of authoritarian regime when you have a fascist regime on the rise right now, unchecked by Congress, which makes November the most important election of our lives.
Representing Staten Island.
J-Pork's East Coast Radio, Dyze in your house, J-Pork's podcast. We must resist or we won't exist. Taking it back in November. East Coast Radio for the least heard voices.
The other side, and I'm going to just say it, and it's not my style usually, they're just simply lying. No, about their commitment to pre-existing conditions. You have the President of the United States saying, we guarantee, or whatever his phrase was, everybody's covered with pre-existing conditions is covered. Simply not true. They're either not telling the truth or they're really stupid.
Who's in the house? Dyze in your house. What is the word, peeps? What goes on? This is most likely an election eve edition of Dyze in your house, exclusively on East Coast Radio for the least heard voices. But you know what? Forget all the intros. Forget all the Patreon. Forget everything right now. Forget everything. There is only one thing. There is one thing you need to do for me. This Tuesday, you need to go to vote. And there's not much else to do. I've been tweeting about it. I talked about it last week. We're in a situation right now where you cannot afford to get comfortable. You cannot see Dems leading on a generic ballot and think that that's something that you can fall back on, because we all remember what happened when we relied on polls in 2016. What happened? What happened? Something not good. And we can't let that happen again. There is a rising fascist regime in this country, and if we don't put a stop to it now, fascism rises fast. It's almost like Usain Bolt. I'm not saying Usain Bolt is a fascist, but I'm saying that fascism rises at the speed that Usain Bolt runs track. And if you don't put a stop to that quickly, then the only way that fascism ends is to be brought down in war. And to be honest, I don't want to go to war. You don't want to go to war. You don't want to live in a country that's at war against itself, fighting fascism. It's unbelievable. So you may have noticed that all the polls, which you shouldn't be looking at anymore, all of the polls seem to be tightening up here. All the polls seem to be tightening up. The Democrats only need a net gain of 23 seats to gain control of the House of Representatives. Every seat up for election. What does that mean? Let me tell you. The House of Representatives has the power to subpoena. If you can subpoena, for instance, Mark Judge, and you can make him come in and you can ask him about Brett Kavanaugh under oath. You can subpoena people in the White House who may not have been answered. You could subpoena Don Jr. You can make Jared Kushner. You can make these people testify under oath to the committee in the House of Representatives, and you can, under crime, penalty of perjury and jail time. So instead of having committees run by Devin Nunes and Bob Goodlatte, you could have committees run by Maxine Waters and what's the guy from New York, Jerry Nadler, stuff like that. This year the Senate's probably not in play. That doesn't mean you don't go vote. Think about it like this. Think about the House of Representatives as the popular vote, and think about the Senate as the Electoral College. One of them is, it's a hard map to get through. But if us as progressives go out and vote, there are more of us than there are of them. So that's all we need to do, is get out there, bring a friend, get out there in numbers. There's more love in this country than hate. I will not believe that just because that there's a rise of white supremacy, there's more people marching in Proud Boys rallies. I'm not going to be resigned to the notion that that's the majority of America. I cannot. Because the majority of Americans didn't vote for Trump. So the majority of Americans aren't full of hate. The majority of Americans are full of love. And if we could just get out voting in numbers and not get sidetracked and not get suppressed, if we can just get out in droves, then no matter how many votes they try to suppress, they can't suppress them all. Georgia right now. Big voter suppression going on. I'm talking monstrous. Oprah giving a speech the other day. She was talking about how a guy, Otis, she said this guy was told his polling place was 6 miles away in the next town. He put on his best suit, his best shoes, and he walked 6 miles to his polling place to vote. And when he got there, they told him that that was not his polling place, that his polling place was actually 8 miles in the other direction. So he walked 8 miles in the other direction to his actual polling place, where he was denied the right to vote. Cast your ballot for people like that. Cast your ballot for people that really need it. If you look at the hashtag on Twitter, hashtag GOP voting blue. There are a lot of Republicans out there too that want to take the country back from a rising fascist regime. The only thing is, none of them are elected right now. So what smart conservatives are doing is voting Democrat down the ticket. Because this country's built on checks and balances, and if we don't have that, and especially if we have a leader who has no idea what is actually going on, has no idea how to do what he's doing, and, we were told that there would be the best people, and that didn't happen, and all the guardrails of democracy have resigned, and all of the senators that said that they were going to stand up have cowered down. Looking at you, Mr. Graham. Looking at you, Lindsay. What happened? What happened to you? You said he's a race-baiting xenophobe. That's what you said. Now you're a prime defender of Trump. It's disgusting. There is no excuse for the hateful rhetoric. Have you seen the latest commercial? The Willie Horton-esque commercial about the Latino guy, the gang member, who killed some cops, and he said, I'd kill more cops. And they were like, Democrats, let him out. No, it didn't. That's not what happened. He was actually released by Sheriff Joe Arpaio, you know, the guy that Trump pardoned, and he was actually allowed back into the country during the Bush administration. So, save it with that. Okay? Save it. Also, there is just this growing, you know, listen, there's this growing, well, alright, so let's put it this way. The reason why I say don't look at polls, and the polling this year is a lot different than 2016. In 2016, on the eve of the election, Hillary Clinton had about a 53% chance of winning, and Trump had like, 40-something. By the time election night was here, it was 51-49 Clinton. Like, it was really almost 50%. It was almost a coin flip. So I'm not saying that the polls are saying that it's that close. The polls right now, on 538, have the Democrats with about an 82% chance of taking the House. 82% is not 95%. This is far from a lock. So you can't see a +7 in the generic ballot. Because again, generic ballot +7, that's closer to Hillary Trump than what all of the individual races may tell you. And also, 538 has the light deluxe, the light model, the classic model, the deluxe model. They've got all these models, all of the polls, every analysis that you can possibly give. And then yesterday, I read an article on 538 that says, well, the Republicans could win the House if there was a systematic polling error. What does that mean? Well, that would mean that all the polls are wrong. Sorry. What? That Saturday Night Live mock commercial for the midterms with the Democrats, like, shaking, like, that is so true right now. I've never been so afraid in my life. Like, at least, I don't even like to say it like this, but at least Trump is, like, kind of ineffective. He doesn't know how to govern. So if there's a check on him, he's done. Done. If there's a check on him, he can't do anything. And I played Joe Biden at the top. And I know I don't want, listen, I don't exactly right now think that I want Joe Biden to lead the ticket. But listen, I want to win. And Joe Biden is right. Do you know that the Republicans right now are out there saying? They're out there saying that they're not going to take away pre-existing conditions. They're out there basically campaigning on Obamacare. Campaigning on the Affordable Care Act. Ted Cruz signed up. This is not normal. The amount of lies that come out are not normal, and words do matter. Words matter. And we have to stop with, oh, well, he's just saying that. No. People who just say that, they're just saying things for a reason. And it's either to race bait some people, it's either to send a message, it's to ask Russia for help in the election. So you can't rely on the polls. And listen, I love Steve Kornacki as much as the next guy. Steve Kornacki does a fine job breaking down the districts and stuff. But this polling is landline polling. They're done with landline phones. They're polls of likely voters. Like 670 likely voters. Margin of error, 6 points. I mean, so you can't really you can't really take the polls to the bank as much as, you know, you would in, you know, 1994, or 1998, or 96. You can't. But what you can do is just listen. You just need to get out there and vote Democrat down the ticket. You do that, and I'll tell you a little. Here's a little story. All right. My girlfriend, love you, babes. My girlfriend wrote in Bernie Sanders on the last election, right? So she doesn't like she's, as all of us, really fed up with the way government works. You know, the way government is, we don't like it. And we want to just change it. But we can't change it with protest votes or staying home because we don't like a certain candidate. Listen, for Kirsten Gillibrand, I mean, I'm not the biggest fan of. I know that sounds crazy because she's a progressive, and I know, you know, I'm typical New Yorker where I hate, you know, my progressive elected officials that have done a lot for me, but like, Kirsten Gillibrand spearheaded that Al Franken, you know, the Al Franken resigning thing. Al Franken was a strong force in the Senate, and I'm sorry, but he didn't actually rape any girls. He took some pictures with some girls. He played a joke on a comedian, and like, Kirsten Gillibrand spearheaded that campaign. Like, she was the first one to say that Al Franken needs to resign. And she didn't stand their ground. She broke with Democrats, and all the other Democrats sided with her, and then Al Franken had to resign. And then Kavanaugh happened, and everyone was like, see, Gillibrand made a good power play because that's going to help us with Kavanaugh. Well, guess what? It didn't. It didn't help us with Kavanaugh because Kavanaugh is on the Supreme Court. But not tomorrow, I'm sorry. Well, you might be listening to this on Monday. On Tuesday, November 6th, I will be voting for Kirsten Gillibeans because, you know, I care about democracy, and I hate fascism. And I don't want to see it rise. And she's a strong force, and, you know, I believe that she needs, you know, until she runs for higher office. I don't think she could be president in 2020. We'll see. But you can't think about 2020. That's the problem. Too many people thinking about 2020. Who are the candidates going to be? Too many people going to betting websites and checking on who's going to be the Democratic nominee in 2020. Like, dude, we got work to do. Have you seen all of Obama's speeches? Obama's stumping, looking like he's in 2007 mode right now. Talking about hope and change. And not only that, he's got the sleeves rolled up. And you want to know why? Because it's time to go to work. That's why he's got the sleeves rolled up. That's why Beto's got the sleeves rolled up. That's why Gillum's got the sleeves rolled up. That's why Stacey Abrams, if she was wearing long sleeves, she would have them rolled up too. Because we have work to do. 1,000-mile journey begins with one step. And that step is Tuesday, November 6th, to your polling place. Now, you may recall, I live on Staten Island. I mention it all the time. The rugged lands of Shaolin. We got a hotly contested NY11 district race going right now for Congressional District New York 11. Max Rose, Dan Donovan. I saw a Siena College New York Times poll that had Max Rose up 2 points on Dan Donovan. That's insane. Max Rose is the Democrat. Now, why? Well, Max Rose he was an Afghanistan war veteran. He's running as a more moderate, very conservative Democrat. Like, he was on Morning Joe, and I know that Mika Brzezinski and Joe Scarborough didn't have time to really ask the guy from Staten Island questions, but he was on Morning Joe, Max Rose, and he was talking about, you know, he said, like, he wouldn't just blanketly vote against Trump on everything. Like, if Trump had something good, like, he would vote for it. Cool. You know? I agree. Like, if Trump does something good, I'll be the first one to say, yo, that's cool. Like, I'm glad he did that. I swear to God I would. I swear. But, like, he said Nancy Pelosi's not going to be the speaker because there's people that... Max, win your election first. The people are looking past November 6th, and we can't do that. But, listen, and there's no other message. An economy that works for everyone. Do you want rich people getting tax cuts, or do you want to get a tax cut? There's more of a chance of you staying poor than you becoming rich. I'm sorry to tell you that. Even my conservative friends on Staten Island, even my conservative friends that make a lot of money selling cars, you don't make the amount of money that would prevent fascism from affecting you. You're not that rich. And it's not specific. There's a million car dealerships on Staten Island. Staten Island is the only district in the NY11 is the only district in the 5 boroughs that is held by a Republican. How can the most diverse place on earth be a Republican? I mean, how can the most diverse collection of boroughs on earth have this much red in one spot? Suburbia, that's how. It's just insane. And I'll make a promise to you. I promise you this. If we roll up our sleeves, and on November 6th we go to vote, and if on November 6th we're staying up late that night, and we're watching the poll results come in, and on Tuesday night into Wednesday morning, Democrats don't bungle this up. If the Democrats are able to take the House and take some key governor races, like in Georgia, like in Florida, not taking the Senate, but if Beto O'Rourke is able to upset Ted Cruz in Texas, if we get Beto, if we get governorships, and if we get the House, we didn't win yet. Then that's the first step. So what I would like you to do, and again, the Congress wouldn't be in session until January. So, on Wednesday, November 7th, we can all take a break. One day to recover. We can, listen, there is no popping champagne. We can't. Because we're not done. But we need to focus. So right now, you need to go to vote.org. Find out where your polling place is. Make sure your ID is in order. You got Monday, all of Monday, to get down to the DMV and make sure your ID is in order, up to date and all that stuff. And listen, if we progressives, people who aren't fascists, people who don't want people locked in cages, if we can have some gains on Tuesday and things go the way they should be going, according to, the common public perception here. Listen, we got a lot of young people voting now for gun for gun reform. A lot of single-issue young voters are getting out to vote. Voting is becoming cool. Imagine if we can actually pull this off and provide a check. I promise you that we will have some fun here on East Coast Radio. I promise you that we will not fill every, I will have because we will have from November to January without a Congress. So as long as, I promise you, I've got some fun, some stuff I would love to talk about, like music, like pop, there are stories I have. I had a alongside a good summer, I've got some funny stories. I mean, listen, I didn't start the podcast because I wanted to change the world. I didn't start the podcast because one day I wanted to be on MSNBC. You know what I'm saying? Even though that would be nice. They don't have anybody with a man bun on, so that would be cool. But I started the podcast because people have told me that my voice is kind of funny and the way I tell stories is kind of entertaining. And I want to do more of that. I don't want to fight fascism every week. I don't want there to be fascism for me to fight, is what I should say. which is what is all more important, that we go out and vote. This was supposed to be a shorter podcast. It is not. We're over 20 minutes already. But please, Lyft is offering free rides to your polling place. There's no excuse. And if you have any doubts, watch Obama talk. Anywhere he's stumping, just watch him and realize and miss having a president who is a real, true American. Somebody an American who cared about America. Not a failed businessman who cares about himself. And if we could just take this back on Tuesday, we have a chance of correcting the terrible path this country's on. J. Porks, Dyze in your house. Please, for the love of anything holy, go vote.